If you think you could never be vegan, you're in the right place. If you think there's something big that you would really like to do, but it's probably too late, you're in the right place. My name is Michelle Olander. I think there's never been a more important time to move in a vegan direction. So I'm here every week to cheer you on as you veg your best. Episode 164, Vegan Marketing Success with Sandra Nomoto. Welcome back, my Vedge besties. Welcome back. And if you're new here, you're very, very welcome. I am always excited when I get a message or a DM on Instagram, especially on Instagram, is where a lot of you reach me or comment on something. And thank you very much for joining us here. You know, vegans still only make up a small percentage of the population. But if you follow this podcast or my Instagram, or you walk down the dairy aisle of your supermarket, it's fascinating how many things are being aimed at us. It is fascinating how many writers, documentarians, designers, food companies, entrepreneurs, startups, cookbooks, health professionals, podcasters and life coaches. So many of us are aimed at serving vegans. And does that even make sense? Well, we're going to ask this week's guest because, like so many of us, Sandra Nomoto changed the direction of her life after watching one of these powerful documentaries. In her case, Earthlings. And her vegan practice was not just on her plate or in her closet. Sandra moved her professional practice in a vegan direction as well. With her background in public relations and marketing, Sandra works with cruelty-free firms and authors to amplify their reach and their impact. And her book, last year, 2022, Vegan Marketing Success Stories, is the first of its kind. Some of us may know Sandra as the vegan copywriter or the content doctor, but today we'll hear how Sandra Nomoto has been helping ethical and vegan businesses and authors strategize and get their messages out to the people who need to hear them. But that's all ahead. Let's hear it from Sandra herself, and I will see you on the other side. Sandra Nomoto, the content doctor. Welcome to Veg Your Best podcast.
Thanks so much for having me on, Michelle. It's my honor and pleasure.
Well, it's a pleasure for me because you are someone who is a specialist in vegan marketing. I think I was just mentioning a few moments ago, a lot of the people who listen to Veg Your Best and who follow me on Instagram are vegan creatives, vegan founders, ethical entrepreneurs who are looking, some of them haven't quite started yet, but they're looking for where they're going to make some impact and how they can make some level of activism, some of things that they really believe in, go into the world and maybe be sustaining in a commercial way or in a financially sustaining way. So this is your specialty, and I'm wondering how that became your specialty.
It certainly didn't start out as such. I started as the content doctor in 2020. And actually, even before that, I launched as the vegan copywriter. That was my goal. It was to show people I'm vegan now and looking to write for vegan businesses. And the reason why I changed over to the content doctor is because I had a previous client from my first business, Conscious PR, come to me and say, hey, I want to work with you again. I had helped her put together several articles for HuffPost. And she said, do I have to be vegan to work with you? And I said, no, so long as your business is. So so I decided to just make my title a little bit more inclusive. But when you head to my website, it's very clear I do not work with any companies that involve animals in the business, and then to a lesser extent, harm to people or planet. And so that's how I started. And then I guess after I published the book in fall 2022, that's when people started calling me a vegan marketer.
Mm.
Because I've written the book, the one and only book in the world about vegan marketing. And that's very, very kind. I mean, now I do several services that relate to marketing outside of content writing, how I started. So I guess it seems to fit now, although it hasn't fit quite like a puzzle piece, calling myself a vegan marketer, but other people want to, that's fine by me.
Well, I know the drill, because I basically call myself a vegan life coach. I do work with people who aren't vegan. I tend to not have any kind of a litmus test for my clients, because I assume if they want to work with me, it's pretty obvious what I do and where my energy goes. So I assume they know that they're going to get somebody who is not going to encourage them to eat paleo, carnivore, pescatarian. I'm probably not. However, I don't tell anybody how to eat ever. I consider all human beings sovereign and take care of themselves and make their own decisions. But I probably wouldn't be the one suggesting for them to eat meat unless their doctor told them to. So anyway, so I understand this idea that, if we use vegan in our title, if we use plant-based in our title, are we turning people off? What do you think as a marketer?
Well, that's what I found in the beginning, because for whatever reason, that previous client thought she had to be vegan in order to work with me. And I'm smart enough to know we are a very small percentage of the global population. And so, I mean, if you only want to work with vegans, that's great. And I think you can be successful doing that. But if we want to open up our businesses, if we want to educate people and usher them along the plant-based spectrum, because most of the world are still eating animal products, then you have to be a bit more inclusive. And so that's why I choose to work with vegan businesses, but they don't necessarily need to be vegan owned. And that's also the criteria that I set out for the contributors to my book. They did not need to be vegan owned, so long as the business itself was vegan.
So your book is called Vegan Marketing Success Stories. Can you give me an idea of what makes for marketing success versus business success?
Great question.
Or are they one and the same?
I think they can be. Generally, the folks who are great at marketing, we would hope will do well in business. That's the idea of it. So in this book, you'll get stories from 47 contributors, vegan businesses around the world, as well as another few dozen that I pulled from online and got permission to use, because I really wanted at least one example for every marketing tactic that I talked about. And so there's upwards of 100 businesses mentioned here, and they're sharing openly what is working for them. And how they even structure their marketing. In the questionnaire that I sent out to all these potential contributors, I said, tell us about your most successful marketing campaign and all of the tactics that you use to contribute to it, and a budget if you're willing to share that. Most folks said, we don't do the campaign model. Like, they don't do, quarterly campaigns. A lot of them, and because they're small and medium and still very startup and still figuring out what works, a lot of them said, here's what we try, and this is what we found has worked, and so we continue to do that. And I think that's a great way to go. Strategies are always changing. Tactics are always changing. Like social media, the algorithms change, every few months, if not faster than that. So you do have to keep changing and pivoting and finding out what works. And if something used to work and it's not anymore, then you pivot to something else. And so that's the general sense that I got from the folks who contributed to the book.
So help my listeners, some of them who may be very new to business, understand, what is marketing? How would you define marketing?
Oh, wow. I've never been asked that. I guess marketing is the practice of positioning your product or service, pricing it, in a way that will be reasonable, as well as make you profit, and then involves promotional tactics to get your product or service out into the market. It's sort of a combination of all of those things. So if you're able to do marketing successfully, then you're more visible to the folks who are likely to buy your product and service. You're priced adequately, so there's no problem there with them purchasing, and then the cycle repeats. So yeah, like a lot of people say marketing and PR. No, PR, public relations, is actually a subset of marketing. I would say marketing is that overall strategy of how you're positioning your product and service, very closely tied to sales, very closely tied to customer service, but marketing is its own umbrella, I like to say.
So it's like an invitation to the customer, basically. It's like, hi, I'd love you to come over and see what I've got.
Yeah, like when you think back to like the early cell phones, right? They used to be like the honkin', gray with the huge antenna, and only a few people had it. Now, when those smaller ones, like actually BlackBerry is even a little bit more ahead. That's the first smartphone. But even those little flip phone ones, like I would say that's when just this whole phenomena of accessibility to cell phones took off, and it was positioned in such a way that, hey, it's priced quite reasonably. Anybody could have this now, instead of using your landline and always having to be home to pick up your your phone. Here you go. And now our world has changed, and now we can't even think about living our lives without a smartphone. So it's timing has a lot to do with great marketing too, I think.
And so these success stories that you feature and that you present, do most of them use social media for their marketing?
Yeah, I would say so.
So not the old like television, radio, billboards type of marketing.
Yeah, so public relations and digital marketing are the two biggest chapters. So that just tells you all of those tactics are what the folks who contributed are using. And social media most definitely is included in digital marketing. And some of them may not have mentioned social media, just because they didn't have a cool story around it. But I assure, probably all of them. I would be surprised if even one of them was not on social.
And so you just said cool story. That is kind of part of marketing too, right? Is having a cool story.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, whether it's how you founded the product or service, how you communicate that, and the importance of what you're selling to your consumer, and then of course, whether or not you are using your business as activism for the vegan movement. That's another story that not everybody chooses to use. So yeah, absolutely, storytelling is a huge part of marketing.
Now, so when you work with a client, where do you begin trying to help them get their marketing in shape so that they can have the reach and have the impact that they'd like to have?
Yeah, most of my clients are usually pretty clear on what they need me to work on. Like many of them are again small business owners, and they used to be doing their social media, their newsletters, their emails, used to be doing it all, and now they're ready to outsource. And so it's a matter of finding out how many times how many blog posts do you need in a month? How many times are we sending out an email? And it's usually pretty straightforward. I just need to get a sense of the brand voice and make sure that that there's no inconsistency when I'm jumping in, when previously somebody else may have been doing the writing. But yeah, when it comes to small businesses, I've noticed a pattern. It's always, these are the foundational things that I tend to work on. Website copy, if they're launching a new business or redoing their website, blog posts, newsletters, that could be once a week, that could be once a month, but at least, some sort of basic frequency that they're using to connect with their subscribers, and then social media, which of course varies in terms of frequency. And then beyond that, I don't get asked to write many other things, although there are many other marketing tactics that the company is doing. In terms of writing, that's where I usually start with businesses, and usually there's some sort of area where that can be improved. Like I come across a lot of business websites where there is no blog. And I understand that, because a blog may not sound very exciting or useful. But number one, you can use it to share announcements, launch new products and services. You can use it because it kind of as a supplemental manual, something more to share that that isn't included when somebody buys the product or the service. You can use it for news releases, and you can use it to transcribe other types of media. So if you've done a video podcast or an audio podcast, you can transcribe that and turn that into a blog post. And all of these posts will serve as content for Google to find you. So blog posts in themselves may not sound very exciting, but but all of those keywords that Google is using to find your website and show it to people searching for you, that's important. And so I forgot where I was going there, but there you go.
Well, do you help people figure out what their search terms are going to be? Is that also your area of specialty?
I can. Yeah. Usually, again, folks already know what that is. And then they come to me and they're like, here are the keywords. Make sure they're in every blog post. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm personalizing every single thing you're saying, because, I clearly don't write. I can't do it all. So, and I don't have someone. So I'm thinking all the time, like I have a VA who helps put things together and makes them look neat and clean. And I have my sound guy. And so the three of us are putting out the podcast and servicing my clients. And I don't think we've looked at our website in months, probably. We just haven't worried about it at all. So what is the first thing when you come that you want to make sure everybody's doing? Would it be something like updating their website and making sure that there's searchable content on it?
Yeah, website number one. Like I see businesses all the time just starting on Instagram, and that may work for you for some time, but you never want to have your business rely on any social media network. You never know when they may go down. Facebook has been known to go down for a day, and that's your business. So yeah, reserve that domain. And I would say, even if you don't plan to be on every social network, at least reserve your name on it, so that another company comes along and has your company name or the same company name, they don't take it. Right. So reserve your name. Yeah. And then in terms of social media, I would say at least be on LinkedIn and one other visual platform, whether that's Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube. Those are just those two great places to start. And you can always build on that. And then, like I said, blogs on your website, that'll help you get found on Google, and then email, newsletter. Like those are the four basics that I say that's your baseline. And the newsletter exists because, again, in case your website is under construction, in case a social media platform goes down, you have another way to connect with your audience. And then from there are hundreds of other tactics you can layer on depending on the time you have, the budget you have, and those are all the things that I cover in my book.
Yeah. Well, I think the book is where everybody should start, probably, right?
Yeah. I mean, it can be overwhelming because I say everything you can do in there, but just remember, once you read it cover to cover, then it's up to you to form your own strategy. You're not going to be using all these tactics at once. Maybe, like I said, you start with those four basics, you layer on, maybe it's advertising, you boost some social posts because you have the budget for that. If it's not working, you try something else. So that's what I advise people to start with, those four basics, and then you'll get ideas on everything else in the book. And remember that no company's strategy is the same. Even if you wanted to copy your competitor, your audience is going to be slightly different than theirs. And so what's working for them may not work for you, and vice versa. So it's really upon every business owner or marketer to figure out that strategy that works for them.
And I think being different than your competitor sometimes feels awkward, but it can be a really good thing, because when people come to work with me, I'm pretty sure they know. By now, they pretty much know what they're getting. Now, do I have the reach maybe that I want to have in the long run? Maybe not. But I think I have a very quirky niche, so people know who I am if they've followed me at all. And basically, everybody who works with me has found me through my podcast. So, and then they usually kind of linger on Instagram for a while. And I'm wondering if that's typical. Would you find that typical in terms of for small businesses?
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I didn't know what I wanted to say when Instagram Reels came along, and I knew, this was Instagram's response to TikTok. And so they're going to prioritize Reels over other types of content. And I thought, what could I possibly share in 60 to 90 seconds? It seems like such a short time, but you know what? I made it work. And because yes, I'm a writer, but people want to see my face. They want to hear me and get to know me a little before they choose to hire me. And so, that's exactly what my strategy is. I mean, I don't run a podcast, but that's why I use Reels. And I just jumped on TikTok this year, as well, just to see who may be out there that may be looking for a vegan, content writer. And to respond to, what you said earlier about, finding how you're different from, another vegan coach, or in my case, another vegan copywriter. That's where your unique selling proposition, your USP, comes in. And you really got to find out what that is. It's going to be a huge part of your messaging because, even within the vegan community, we're still, competing with other vegans. So figuring out what makes your company different, or yourself different, and then highlighting that's really going to be key to your messaging and reaching folks who want to hire you.
So now, what do you think that vegans are maybe missing the boat on, or vegan businesses are not talking about, or talking about when they ought not to be? Do you have any thoughts about what we are or what we aren't doing?
Yeah, not really. I found, after writing this book that vegan businesses are doing pretty much the same thing that conventional businesses are doing. I suppose the only thing that's different is we're sort of a David. We're a David versus Goliath kind of a time right now, where we're competing with, animal ag, which has billions of marketing dollars, and the vegan industry is certainly, I mean, there are a few players that have gotten to that level, but for the most part, most of us folks are small to medium, and so we're still trying to get to that level where we can compete on dollars. Now, we can't compete on dollars, but perhaps we can compete in our messaging. And so that's where I think, you need to be really thoughtful. Like, are you going to be more of an activist and educate people about why plant-based products are more important than animal products? Certainly, I found that to be true with the food, the contributors who are in the food industry, because they have to educate. They have to educate on why buy their plant-based meat alternative. And then if you're not in that boat, maybe it's just, you market yourself so to prove that you're the best. And then people just realize, they happen to be vegan, and maybe I should look for more companies that are also vegan. So I think we're still in a period of figuring out what is working, but we're definitely the underdog right now. And it's going to take some time.
But when we walk through that dairy aisle, though, now it is, the world has changed remarkably just in the dairy aisle.
Yeah. And I see that as a huge win, because when we're taking off half the milk shelf, that means that, the companies that have come before have worked. And then advocacy companies like nutritionfacts.org, who have been saying that milk is actually not good for you, like we've been told for decades. And people really, confirming that with their dollars. And so, so I think we need to see that type of change in other industries, for sure. And that's how we're going to measure our success.
So what do you say to someone who's brand new? I know I have some listeners who are kind of dragging their feet about making the commitment to start their plant-based or their vegan business. or there are a few people I know who are creators and a few people I know who are professionals and who would like to have that profession, but actually include that they are vegan or that they are plant-based in their professional identification. And they just are like, oh, it's too hard. There's too much to do. I don't even know where to begin. How would you talk them off the ledge to get them to make their first step?
Well, I would share my own story. So as a result of this publishing this book, I've been invited to give a talk to a non-vegan business crowd, at a local meetup. She gave me up to 45 minutes to present on what veganism is and how it relates to business. And I thought that was a really cool opportunity just to educate people. And I said right off the bat when I started, all I ask is that you have an open mind. And by the end of the presentation and afterwards, people were saying, yeah, I really learned a lot. And hopefully they're gonna go away and think about being more vegan in their business, even if they aren't planning to become vegan themselves. And so the first thing I would say is if you're comfortable with yourself and being vegan and why you are, that's a great first step, because you might end up getting those kinds of questions or having those types of conversations when you do put yourself out there. And I would recommend you do, if you're comfortable with making that stand. Again, like, we're in a world of sameness, and vegans are, I think we're coming into the spotlight right now in an exciting way, where people are becoming of a plant-based or vegan lifestyle. And so we're kind of this like cool young bunch, like that people are now open to having conversations with. And so and do that in whatever way you feel. You don't have to publish a book like I did and get on podcasts. All you have to do is maybe put the word vegan in your bio, and that's it. Maybe that's all you're going to say. Maybe it's a once a week on social media. But yeah, just put yourself out there as comfortable as you feel, and see what conversations you have. And if you enjoy having those conversations, then great. Then we need more of you and what you have to say.
I think that's great advice. Just to start by just sharing what you value about adding that title or having that sort of emphasis in your business. Why do you value it? So people are going to be curious, like, why do you want to do that? Why do you want to add that to your professional designation? Now, tell me about you. You've written 2 books now, right?
Yes.
So tell me that process. How do you write your books? What goes into that?
Time. My first book I wrote in 2 hours. It was done very quickly. It's a workbook. So it helps you form a public relations strategy. And that's why it's so short. But yeah, the writing, I always say, is the easy part. Then you go into editing, and I self-published both books. So, there was no company to be accountable to. It was just a matter of, so my first book I released on Amazon, got some experience there with self-publishing, and I knew I wanted to do the second book in a similar way, but I didn't want it to just be on Amazon. So I used a service called Lulu, which uses vegan inks, and then they distribute everywhere books are sold online. And yeah, I really wanted to make sure that this book I did a lot more promotion on. The first book I did not, because I had already closed my public relations business. So yeah, the writing is the easy part, especially because I had contributors with this one. So again, it was a very collaborative process. And then the marketing is really where it all comes in. So I'm I'm walking the talk, people. So yeah, I've pitched every vegan podcast, that I know that's out there. Of course, sent it to all the vegan media outlets, and then also appeared on more general business podcasts, because of course I just want to educate people on what veganism is and how it relates to business. I also did an audiobook for this. So I hired a vegan narrator so I could get an audio version done. Yeah. And then the launch period was, posting every day on social media for a good 4.5 months, and then putting up weekly blog posts and weekly emails. to get it out there. So yeah, it's already almost 6 months since it came out, but I'm still spreading the word. And that's what you have to do when you whether it's publishing a book or marketing your business. It's nonstop. So
it is an entree for you to show your book, to offer your book to people, to get a sense of what your expertise is before they even see you face to face. They get a chance to look down your table of contents, all the test cases that you discuss in terms of your marketing stories. I think I think it's funny that you say that the writing's the easy part. It must be. I always think, how do you decide what's not in the book? So are you just very logical, very clear what you wanted to accomplish with the with what was included?
Pretty much, yeah. I had the idea that this would be a marketing guide, so something that any business could pick up and learn about marketing. The only difference is all of the stories and case studies would be of vegan businesses. So with that in mind, I started sending out my first few requests for stories at the end of September. This is 2021. And then instead of waiting for 50, I was hoping for 50 stories to come in. I got 47. I was, almost made it there. As they started coming in, I just started getting inspired to write. And so they kind of just started filling in, organically filling in the book as they came in and as I went along. So by January 2022, I pretty much had my manuscript in hand. So roughly 3 months. To form the manuscript. And then from there, it goes into editing and all these other stages.
Now, are you tempted to write the book, the vegan failure businesses, or like what they did wrong? Because I think that would also be fascinating. What your kind of postmortem of like where they went wrong.
Yeah, it's funny. Another interviewer asked if there were any failure stories. And I said, there's one. There's one failure to success story, only because they framed it as such. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. If I do publish like a second edition of this or something like that, I would probably have that in the questionnaire. Tell us, what was going wrong in the business and then how you fixed it through marketing. I think that would be really cool. But yeah, it was not something that I intentionally wanted to include with this book.
Yeah, because I do think, nobody, I'm sure a few people succeed with no failures, but I think failure in my world is it's the process. You keep failing and you don't avoid failure, because avoiding failure is usually a recipe for doing nothing. So we want to see what works, what doesn't work, and then always tweaking, always reorienting. So is there anything that you think unites most of the stories of these successes? Is there one thing that you feel like almost everybody managed in a certain way their marketing in a way that worked for them?
Yeah, again, I just go back to the two biggest chapters, public relations and digital marketing. So obviously I do talk about offline tactics, so going to events and meeting your potential customer directly. I think that's super important now that we're out of the pandemic more today. So that people can sample, meet you face to face, give direct feedback. But yeah, we're in a digital world, so whatever you can't do face to face, that's where you're using social media and your website, photos and videos. I think the visual medium is super important. And then there are folks who can take it a step further and do their own media. So putting out podcasts, publishing books, appearing on stages. And so, yeah, I think it's that mix. There was no one who, like, I would say, maybe only do digital or only do offline tactics. There's that, you've got to have that combination of both as much as you can, I think. And that should be part of your strategy.
So the common thread would be that they started and they put themselves out there in one place or another.
That's right. Yeah.
probably the hardest step.
Yeah. I mean, you don't really have a business unless you have visibility, because if nobody buys your product or service and you don't have any customers or clients, then you don't have a business. So yeah. So the visibility part is inevitable when you run a
Yeah.
business.
Yeah. You must talk to people who are just terrified. And I think in every space this can exist. I think in the vegan and plant-based space, sometimes, you know, I'm assuming somebody probably has said something idiotic on your social media, has written something in the comment section that was not your favorite thing that was written there. Some people are very nervous about getting some feedback that is negative. Do you have any kind of words of advice for them when that happens, rather than if that happens?
Yeah, because it's going to. I mean, if it's valid feedback, you definitely want to take that into account, because that can be a great opportunity to improve on your product or service. So if it's valid feedback, then say thank you, appreciate that and use that to improve your business. If it's somebody trolling and just hating on you because you're vegan, or they just don't like what you have to say, remember, you can always block them, delete it if you don't want your audience to see that. You don't have to, but that option is there. You can block them. I agree. The more visible that you become as a vegan, the more you're going to get these types of comments. But don't be afraid, because you have something to say. And if you're running a vegan business, you're an important part of the economy, and people need you. So don't let things like that stop you from operating or moving forward, because we need all the voices of vegans.
I agree with you. I totally agree with you that we need all the voices. Beautiful that you started with the idea that there could be some valid feedback that you're getting there. It is possible, even if it stings, even if it hurts, even if you feel like embarrassed about it, to look first for it. Is there something I can learn there that would be valuable for me personally or for my business? And I think also understanding that a lot of people may not like the way you vegan. They may have they may think you're doing it in the wrong order or with the wrong priority. Some people are health oriented, and that sets some people off. Some people are climate oriented, and other people think that's ridiculous. So we have to always, we have to really have our own North Star, I think, with these things.
Yeah, and I love that you pointed that out, because I see that all the time online, where vegans are condemning other vegans for not doing it perfectly, or somebody slips up, and we can't have that. Like, I understand the definition of veganism is there for a reason, and there are lines, certain lines that need to be drawn. But one of the reasons why I included a section on diversity and inclusion in the last chapter is because we need to welcome everybody in this movement. All races, all ages, all abilities. And if we're condemning other vegans or non-vegans for whatever reason, that's another reason for people not to take us seriously. So, I always say, if you're somewhere on the plant-based spectrum, even if you're eating some vegetables, once a week or something like that, great. That's a great place to start. And I want to usher people along that spectrum, because very rarely do vegans go vegan overnight. For me, it was 11 years. So just remember that we can't be turning people away before they've even begun the journey. And we need to welcome everyone. We can't tolerate racism. Anti-LGBTQ. We need everybody. And so, just choose your words wisely online.
Yeah, I think that's very important. And I think we need to understand a lot of communities may feel marginalized, even if we don't understand that they feel marginalized, and their voice has not been heard, because in many cases they've been afraid. And so we want to make sure that when we get that sense that we want to condemn somebody, that they're not doing it right, we want to make sure that we put pause on that. I think we want to ask questions for, well, why are you doing it that way. Even if we think we really do know better than someone else, very often what we just don't know what they're trying to teach us or trying to show us or share with us. I really appreciate you having spent this time with us, Sandra. Where can everybody find you? I'm going to have all the links in the show notes for you, but where's the best place, do you think, for people to get to know you better?
Best place is just with my name, sandranomoto.com. You'll find all my services, links to the book there. So, and then I'm everywhere on social media with my name as well.
Yeah, I like your Instagram.
Thank you.
You're on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok, but you've mentioned it a few times, so I'm going to have to borrow one of my kids' TikTok accounts to take a look.
Yeah, I held off for a long time, but if you just think about it as Instagram Reels, that's really what it is. Keep it simple, and it's fine. Yeah, just don't pay attention to all the other features that you could possibly do. Just keep it simple, and you'll be fine. Yeah.
Well, that's actually good advice for all of it. Any new medium that you're using is to keep it super simple the first couple times or couple hundred times until it feels doable, and then you can wear the silly hat or dance or point to the words.
Yeah, I had my dancing and pointing phase with Instagram Reel, and then now I'm back to just like super short educational content, 60 to 90 seconds, and then I post the same thing on Reels to TikTok, and that's my style now. So yeah, you just gotta test it out and figure out what works for you.
That's great. And if our listeners are thinking, I do have something I'd like to teach or something I'd like to share or do it, share it, please, and tag us so that we can weigh in and cheer you on out there.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to see that.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you so much for joining us on Vedge Your Best, and we will make sure that everybody gets all your links.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
So what did you think of Sandra Nomoto? I hope you are hearing this, my Vedge Your Bestie. I hope you're hearing all the many ways moving in a vegan direction comes with so many unexpected side benefits. One of the things I just don't think people even can imagine when they first commit to developing a vegan practice, one of the things I don't think they'd even believe me if I told them, is that in so many ways, it simplifies and clarifies many parts of your life. Now, I know at the very beginning, it doesn't necessarily feel that way when you're learning how to make vegan choices and explaining yourself to yourself. I know. But I think most veteran and seasoned vegans would agree with me. And listening to Sandra Nomoto today, I hope you heard how concentrating on veganizing her work, her profession, her career, how that has been so rewarding. And if you would like to contact Sandra about her services for authors and businesses, or how she even created her niche, I'm certain she'd love to hear from you. She's on Instagram. She's at sandranomoto.com. That's 2 A's in Sandra, 3 O's in Nomoto. sandranomoto.com. But as always, the links for Sandra, her blog, her book, Vegan Marketing Success Stories, those will all be in the show notes. Okay, my Vedge Your Bestie, get out there and allow your vegan or your plant-based practice to be something that distinguishes you, something that illuminates the work you do in the world and is part of your own personal vegan success story. Okay, until next week, Vedge Your Best. Vedge Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Vedge Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and Vedge Your Best.